Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I'm Genviève, and today we'll talk about the overt narcissistic personality disordered individual's modus operandi. Because as you will find out, most of them have an eerie textbook approach in the way they interact with you. So it starts a bit like this. You meet someone who is wonderfully kind and gentle and attentive and patient, considerate, caring, loving, giving, and very immediately invested in knowing as much as they can about you. They seem to have this sort of fascination for you and appear to be solid and stable and truly market themselves as individuals of integrity and honor and beauty of character. So in that first phase, and most of us who have been involved in relationships with NPDs seem to share that initially these were not somebody that we would have ever pursued or imagined being in a relationship with. They're not the kind of person we would naturally be involved with, and yet they show up in our lives with this grandiose, larger-than-life presence and imposition on your every thought. So that's the overt type. They display this brilliance and over-the-top passion for every single thing they can find about you. So then number two is, as you're cautiously intrigued by so much attention and kindness and presence and demands on your time, you are going along with the flow in a cautious manner, so to speak. And you will find that they tend to want to go from 0 to 1,000 miles per hour in the blink of an eye. They're investing themselves into you immediately, embedding you into their lives, presenting you to their circles, introducing you to their family members, and displaying you as the person they've been looking for all along, putting you on a pedestal, glorifying your talents and assets and traits, and literally embedding you in the core of their presence and existence. And they will begin that second phase in researching you and attempting to find out as much as they possibly can about you. So they will question you about your childhood and your wounds and your dreams and your goals and your perceived weaknesses and your perceived strength and what makes you who you are and your most intimate secrets and intimate facts about you that you don't typically share with anybody else. These are the kind of individuals, by the way, that you will find flat out on their bellies underneath your bed. If you're looking for them in the house and you don't find them anywhere, and you enter your bedroom and you don't see them there, and eventually you find out they were actually flat out on their belly underneath your bed because you forgot that you slid under your bed your vision board where you wrote your secret desires and your secret wishes and goals about life. And of course, these are things you don't want to share with anybody. It's your private garden. So when you have someone over, you grab that vision board and slip it under a furniture under your bed. And these are the kind of individuals who will search into your drawers, into your daytimers and your calendars and your little books and notebooks and everywhere and anywhere they can find information about you in order for them to morph into what you've been secretly searching and longing for. And they will chameleon themselves into those goals, attempting to portray themselves as your soulmate. And they do this with every single relationship they go through, which are always pretty short-lived. And they're the type of individuals who are typically maintaining several relationships at the same time, overlapping one from the others. And they will basically attempt to portray themselves as the person that you've been dreaming of, the person that you're wishing for. Any information they can find to help them identify that personality, that type that you're looking for, they will immediately embody that in order to best conquer you. They're literally on a mission to conquer you so that they can draw you into their complete and full power and trap you. That's the goal of the NPD, is to conquer and trap you within their power. In the ancient days, we had those stories of fiction about vampires who would puncture a wound into the throat of their victims and begin to draw the blood, the life force from their body in order to survive. NPDs are known as energy vampires. And when you think that your life force within your body is actually a source of energy, it makes complete sense. They will attach themselves to you, onto you, like a leech does, and literally begin to draw the life energy out of your body. So in the second phase, they're gathering all that intelligence to better know you and better know how to play you, basically. That's the goal. And they will accelerate intimacy by asking you to move in with them over and over and over, beginning to put pressure on you so that they can remove you from your circles, from your support, from your known source of operations into their own, so that they can have full control over you. That is a very, very dangerous step, by the way, that is best to be avoided at all costs, because you become very vulnerable when you do that. And through their questionings, you are thinking, wow, look at this, as somebody who's really wanting to know me as a person and know me at my core, at my depth. And you find it very moving, completely unaware that it is a tactical strategy to gather intelligence to best control and therefore eventually destroy you. And once you begin to soften, because thrown into that whirlwind romance, straight out of a Hollywood movie production, a whirlwind romance that doesn't happen in normal relationships, you'll begin, like all of us have this fantasy of being loved and adored for who we truly are. And they play on that fantasy that was culturally blown by the Disney culture and by fiction, leading all of us to believe in that ideation of romance, right? And so they play on that very strongly and present themselves as the larger-than-life individual who came on into your reality to sweep you off your feet and bring you into their world. And so eventually, the more cautious you are, by the way, the more reluctant you are, the more persistent there will be, and the longer that act will last. But eventually that act will begin to break apart, because it's very simply a superficial act that they're playing, and that is very temporary, that they change with each and every person that they encounter. So they can't sustain an act like this for very long, and they will begin to disintegrate. The facade will begin to erode over time, and very soon, and this can be within a few months, 2 months to 6 months, usually you will see their true personality begin to appear, like sun behind a cloud that starts to pierce through the cloud, except this is darkness piercing through the light. Basically, it's the opposite. But you will start to have evidences of that Jekyll and Hyde personality, with the severe mood swings and the rotation from that wonderful, kind and loving person who you thought you met into that evil, cruel, debasing, humiliating, degrading person with zero empathy that will begin to become your worst nightmare, to use your words against you, to use your hopes and your dreams against you. That person who will start to triangulate you by inventing false relationships with others. So there's typical serial relationship type of people who are serial cheaters, compulsive liars. So most of the time they will be cheating on you from day one. They're usually with somebody else when they meet you and pretend to be single, and they're constantly seeking secondary sources of supply because they know that their relationships are not going to last, because that's the pattern they replicate through the course of their lives. So they're constantly developing backup potentialities behind you, but they will also pretend false relationships with, for instance, their co-workers or their secretaries or their attorneys, pretending to have this incredible bond with these other people in their lives that supposedly find them so attractive and so smart and special, and they will start telling you they're spending the evening with them. And that's a triangulation technique to begin to attempt to make you insecure. Basically, they're starting to chip through your strength and begin to develop, to break down your self-esteem and make you insecure, and attempt by all means to make you jealous, whether it's with people that are in their own circles or people outside of their circles. And then they will start contradicting themselves. So for instance, in the ideation phase, idealization phase, the love bombing phase of the beginning, that is called love bombing because they're literally bombarding you with affection and attention and gifts and presence and kindness and all of this wonderful, loving, swirling vortex of energy. That's called the love bombing phase. In that phase, they probably tell you that they're seeking for the one person they can love forever, and they're loyal and devoted and one-on-one, and they despise people who juggle with several relationships. And then in the devalue discard phase that they eventually begin to throw you into, they will completely contradict their initial descriptions of themselves by admitting or saying to you, because everything they say is false anyway, so you never know where the truth lies, by starting to tell you that they despise intimacy and they despise relationships and they have contempt for one-on-one relationships, and they actually are serial daters and serial cheaters, and they've never been with one person in their entire life from the beginning of times. Even when they were teenagers and they started dating, they were supposedly having relationships or sexual intercourse with multiple partners. So you're staring at them in complete disbelief, not understanding the apparent inconsistencies between who you met and who that person is suddenly revealing themselves to be. Most of them, by the way, it's very common that they have multiple diagnostics. And again, I'm not a licensed medical provider, so I do not diagnose individuals, but they're known to be sometimes borderline, sometimes bipolar personality disordered, as well as narcissistic personality disordered individuals. So the constant mood swings that you will experience in the devalue discard phase is actually their true pattern of operation. And that's when you begin to uncover the web of lies, which, by the way, will continue revealing itself because they are compulsive liars. So everything they told you about themselves end up usually being untrue, whether it's about their past, their histories, their relationships, or even their careers and financial status is usually a complete fabrication. And so in that realm, you're beginning to, of course, if they stayed in that devalue discard phase consistently, you would leave immediately. So they fluctuate back and forth and continue giving you doses of their ideal, initial, grandiose kindness sporadically, more and more sporadically as time goes on. And that's called dosing you, by the way. They give you a little bit of the initial elation and exhilaration that you experience upon meeting someone who presented themselves in such a magnificent manner, and then turns into a Jekyll and Hyde, cruel personality who will put you down, and usually on important dates too, like your birthday or Christmas or Thanksgiving, or special holidays where these are times of celebration and you look forward to them, are classically days and times and vacations and occasions where those individuals will be their cruelest, their harshest, will attempt by every possible way to bring you down and destroy your chance of happiness on that specific occasion for several reasons. The first one of which is being that they have this compulsive need to be the center of attention. And whenever there is attention placed on somebody else or a religious celebration, they feel so deprived of energy that they will go out of their way to destroy that moment in order to bring the energy back to themselves, even if it's in a negative manner. So going back and forth between the love bombing phase, idealization phase of the beginning, to the devalue, discard, harming, deeply destructive phase is known as trauma bonding, and that's what I covered in our last video. These individuals will bring chaos everywhere they go and to everyone they touch, destruction and chaos. They will harm you physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially, and will leave you burning down into ashes. And that is your chance to recreate yourself. Sadly, there is a lot of victims, targets of narcissistic abuse who end up taking their own lives when it is the moment where you can, from your ashes, begin to emerge stronger, brighter, more powerful, more potent, more true to yourself, more authentic than you ever were. And this is why it is so important to spread awareness upon this pattern of relationships so that more and more people become aware of what it is and are able to recognize the red flags. They're there from the very beginning. Recognize the symptoms, recognize the characteristics, and as fast as they possibly can, remove themselves from that situation. Your only chance of surviving a relationship of that nature is to leave the relationship. These individuals will not change, and there's nothing you can do to make them change. The only thing you can do is to remove yourself from that situation and relationship as much as you possibly can. Surround yourself with a strong support team that starts with your medical doctors who will address the depletion of your physical body. A lot of time you emerge from that situation anemic, complete loss of magnesium due to the trauma phases that you've been in. A strong trauma team with your licensed mental health care practitioners and people like myself and others, coaches, forensic, clinical hypnotherapists who will help you work with brain plasticity and brain rewiring to rebuild yourself, rebuild your self-esteem, rebuild your strength, and together emerge stronger than we ever were before. It is feasible, it is possible, and I'm here to support you. So join this channel if you haven't already subscribed. We stand stronger when we stand together. Subscribe, share awareness. Share awareness if you recognize somebody in your circle going through this. Make them aware of what this is going on, what it is, what they're facing. And if you find this video inspiring, do like it. It'll make my day to see your comments underneath the video. A lot of you ask me, how do we comment underneath the video? On your laptops, it is simply underneath your screen, or I should say on your screen underneath the video presentation. And on your mobile devices, you do have to scroll all the way down until you find the comment section below all the reviews. So I look forward to seeing your comments. Remember, we are in this together, and I'm here to assist you in every way, shape, or form that I possibly can. Until next week, ciao for now, and thank you for tuning in.